あとは我々に任せろ。さすがにこれ以上はイフリートの期待が持たん。連邦の青二歳が邪魔しよって。次に会う時が貴様とブルーの最後だ。なんだ、奴は。
Mobile Suit Gundam Side Stories The Blue Destiny 2. In case you couldn't tell, this is the sequel to the first Blue Destiny game on the Sega Saturn. And likewise, it's a Sega Saturn import, but it's also fantastic and kind of a must-own. The story follows, once again, voiceless, faceless, Gym Command space type on the ground with Gym Ground type equipment for some reason pilot, Yu Kajima. Yeah, if you start nitpicking the mobile suits in this game, it'll drive you crazy, but, like in the first game, he's a gym pilot, which basically makes him the single most expendable person. You're piloting your gym on a routine rescue mission when suddenly this guy shows up. Nimbus Sturgeon, pilot of the Ifrit Custom, which, while we're on that topic, best Zeon suit ever, and he's gonna wreck your day. Shortly after coming into contact with Nimbus Sturgeon, Yu is then given the Blue Destiny Unit 1. That blue thing you had to fight in the first game. And now he's back with a vengeance to bring victory to the Earth Federation and destroy the horrible, horrible army that is Zeon. There's also a subplot about some girl being stuck in a special system equipped to the Ifrit and Blue Destiny, but all of that is basically in Japanese, so you're probably not going to pay attention to any of it. What is interesting, though, is the sort of story of the actual piloting experience, and I regret not mentioning this when I talked about the first game, but these games really get piloting the mobile suits right. Like, in the first game, it really felt like you were in a gym. When you were fighting Zaku's, no problem, you could take them toe-to-toe, no big deal. But when the DOMs show up, shit got real. You suddenly felt like you were outmatched and you were in trouble. And in this game, it's very much the same. Early on, you're kind of already outmatched because you're going up against stuff like Goofs, Zaku cannons, and even like the occasional Dom, but once the Ifrit rears its ugly head, you are very, very clearly outclassed. This guy is faster than you, hits harder than you, has way more weapons than you, and he basically just completely wrecks shop. And then once you actually get into the Blue Destiny proper, you actually feel like you're basically completely invincible. You can basically jet around the entire world without having to worry about overheating your verniers, because you have to, like, actively try to in this game. Your weapons are significantly better than your crappy gym, and just going up against anything, Goofs, Doms, Zakus, whatever, you've got this covered because you are piloting the incredibly superior machine. Up until the end, then the Ifrit comes back and says, hey, remember me? And you're like, oh, shit. That's the guy who has the exact same awesome super systems my machine has, except he's faster, better equipped, and he hits a lot harder. This could be a problem. Basically, while the story itself is interesting, provided you can follow it, because it's all in Japanese, the actual story of the piloting experience given by this game is just top-notch, and I think that's a reason to buy this game already. It's just the experience of you as the pilot of this super ground Gundam with blue gym head for some reason. It's very realistic to the actual mobile suit's strengths. So if you're really into Gundam and like what it would be like to feel the power of a certain mobile suit versus another, this game will absolutely do that. So long as you don't start nitpicking about why he was piloting a Gym Command space type on the ground with Gym Ground type equipment, and don't even get me started on why the Blue Destiny's equipment is wrong, because that's also very true. But the point is, the story given to you, maybe not the greatest, but still pretty interesting if you can follow it, but the story you experience yourself, completely top-notch. Now, the gameplay to this is definitely second verse, same as the first. It's very similar to the first Mobile Suit Gundam Side Stories Blue Destiny game. It's a high-speed, arcadey, first-person shooter mech sim type thing, and it plays pretty much entirely the same. With the directional pad handling movement, the shoulder buttons sort of handling a pseudo-second stick to handle turning, and then height being regulated to a button that you have to toggle a bunch of times to aim below you, which is awful, just like it was in the first game. But everything else about the game is a little bit different because you're piloting a different suit. The Blue Destiny is based off of the ground Gundam, and as such, it no longer uses those really awkward, terrible grenades, and instead uses a chest-mounted rocket launcher. And while you have to manage your verniers a little bit, you can basically jet around with no problems whatsoever. It can take a hell of a lot more of a beating than your crappy gym ever could. It's faster, its gun appears to be stronger, its Vulcans are, well, they're Gundam Vulcans, they're basically completely worthless, but still, it plays pretty much exactly the same as the previous game, just more empowering because you're piloting something better, and it definitely feels like it. In terms of mission structure, the game is pretty much one note, however. Unlike the first game, which had defense missions, this one is entirely offensive based. Every single mission is shoot all the enemies, and occasionally shoot one or two ground targets that have been designated by your commanding officer. So if you're looking for variance in your missions, you're really not going to get it until maybe the final level, which is the duel with the Ifrit. In which case, it is a survive by the skin of your teeth because you're fighting something significantly better kind of fight. You have to use every single one of your tactics to survive, you have to manage your verniers because even though you're in exam and you have even more boost to work with, so does he, and he's a lot faster than you. Seriously, the final boss in this game leaves you on the edge of your seat. It's so well done, it's so high speed, it's so fast paced, and it's just really exciting and terrifying at the same time. Like seriously, when you see this guy coming right up into your face, you're like, ah, do not want! This game absolutely captures mobile suit combat really well, despite the fact that the controls are a little bit clunky and it's absolutely desperately begging for a second stick. The one other addition to your mobile suit that makes it different from your gym, despite having a gym's head, it's equipped with a lot more different features than your standard gym. For one thing, you've got a mini-map. You also have the biggest deal ever, which is Exam. Exam is a super system powered into your mobile suit that may or may not be kidnapping the ghost of a new type to basically give you pseudo-new type powers. Similarly to why the Ifrit custom is so badass, it too has that same ability. But the idea is when you've entered Exam, your machine's eyes glow red, and you're basically mean to everything around you. You are faster, you are stronger, you can take even more of a beating than you could before. Basically, it takes your machine, which was already an incredible upgrade of your crappy gym, makes it way better. The only downside is you can only remain in Exam for a short period of time, as indicated by the bottom left corner of the screen. Once that timer is up, you are dead. You gotta use your newfound almost unlimited amount of boost and get moving. Unfortunately, similarly to the previous game and the last game in the trilogy, this game only has 5 levels. And unfortunately, one of them you're spending in your gym, so this game only has 4 levels where you're actually piloting your badass new mobile suit. Kind of unfortunate, and I still think they could have crammed all 3 games onto one disc, but still, the gameplay is fun, and so long as you don't mind it being a little bit one note because all the missions really are the same, it's definitely a blast to play, and the gameplay is extremely well executed. And it feels like it's polished a little bit more than the previous entry. Oh, and as an added little extra bonus, if you have save data from the previous game, you can carry it over into this game and continue your military career. So if you received a promotion during that game, you can receive another one during this game provided you play well enough. And you can take that save data into the third game, and if you play that game well enough, you unlock a really neat extra bonus feature. So it's sort of neat that there's a sort of legacy system built into it. And I really appreciate that, it's just a fun little bonus thing. The Presentation 2 Mobile Suit Gundam Side Stories, The Blue Destiny, number 2, is, well, it's basically the same as the previous one, which is solid. The nice thing is, visually, you have even more mobile suits to go and fight, because unlike the previous one, which had like 4 total, this one has 7. In fact, let's count them down. You've got the Zaku, Zaku Cannon, Goof, Dom, Hygog, Zagok, and Ifrit Custom. Don't know why they had to add a bunch more aquatic suits when you had the Hygog, that was like the coolest one. And also, no Ak guy. I mean, come on, if you're gonna add all of Zeon's lame aquatic suits, add the Ak guy. I mean, he was the king of lame aquatic suits. There's a lot more suits to shoot at, and to be fair, it varies things up visually a little bit, which is appreciated. The designs of the areas are also a little bit more varied than the predecessor. Not by a much, mind you, but a little bit. And the audio design to the Blue Destiny 2 is, again, it's pretty much what the first one was. It's quiet and it's not super memorable, but if you do take the time to listen to it, it's pretty good. And it was well produced and sounded quite good. The voice acting, likewise, is excellently done, it's well produced and well acted, and overall just leads to a nice, well-rounded package. Like the gameplay, if you played the first one, you kinda know what to expect, but it is a little bit of a step up. Now, if you want a copy of Mobile Suit Gundam Side Stories, The Blue Destiny 2, it's a bit more expensive than your standard import, sitting at about $15. And at that price, I'd say it's well worth the pickup. Now, do I recommend this? Well, yes and no. I mean, don't get me wrong, this game is excellent and I think it's a must-have. But if you can only get one of the Blue Destiny games, I would still recommend the third one over top of all of them, because that one has the greatest amount of variance of all, and was the most well produced, and was sort of the culmination of all the work put into the Blue Destiny games. But more importantly than all of that, you can get a trilogy box set for the same price as any one of those games individually. Like, seriously, that's what I'm playing this on, was the Side Story Blue Destiny box set, which cost me $15, just like any one of the individual games, and I got all three plus a bonus disc of extra features and stuff. So, really, there's no reason to buy any single one of them individually, but if you have to, honestly, I'd just recommend the third one over top of this one. This one has a better feel than the first one, it's got a better final boss, in fact it's one of the best final bosses on the system, I'd say, but the third one outdoes this game in terms of gameplay alone. But in the end, Mobile Suit Gundam Side Story The Blue Destiny 2 is a really kick-ass mech game. Seriously, the Saturn had a bunch of them, but I think the Blue Destiny games were honestly the best. And this one certainly had the best fight in all of them. It had one of the coolest mobile suits in all of them, and while I think the third one beats it out in terms of overall quality, it's nowhere near as memorable in terms of an upgrade to you, or to the boss, or fighting the boss. And it really comes down to, do you prefer having an awesome final boss battle, or do you want a singular experience that just feels better overall? If you prefer the former, grab this one. If you prefer the latter, get the third one. And the first one, it was a good intro, and it had some varied levels, but it just didn't quite reach the levels of these two. In the end, though, all three Blue Destiny games are highly recommended. They were also released on the PS3 as part of the Missing Link. Don't play those versions. I mean, the only thing that game did better than these was it had a story for the villain. But if you've got a Saturn and you're ready to grab some imports, the Blue Destiny trilogy is easily the first I would recommend to you. This game and its trilogy are awesome.
マシンの性能差か。しかし。エグザムを積んだ頭をやられちまった。データが